Hello everyone, I'm Robin and let's taste the Queen Palm and Molasses Spirit today. Just as a recap, before we dive into tasting the spirit, I took about a gallon of juice that was extracted from the Queen Palm fruits, mixed that with a gallon of grandma's molasses, and added some water and yeast and allowed that to ferment. If you want to check out the whole video, it's right here or right here, somewhere over here. And that will give you the exact recipe of what I used for the fermentation. But 3 weeks later, it was time to distill. So in total, I had a little over 6 gallons of wash that went into the still, and that was sitting at about 10% ABV. After the first distillation, the low wines distillation, I yielded about 5.6 liters of low wines at 44% ABV. I then put those low wines through a spirits run, and in total, I got out, after discarding the 4 shots, I got out just under 3 liters. 2,850 mils to be exact. Now I split those up into 7 different jars. 2 of those jars were definitely hearts cuts, so that made up a majority of what I collected. The 7th jar that I collected is extremely grungy, pretty low ABV, and has some sediment at the bottom, so that one's gonna go immediately to tails. It will not make the final cut into the spirit, pun intended. So now what I'm left with is jars 1, 2, 3, and 6 to try to figure out if they make the final cut in the spirit. So jars 4 and 5 were definitely hearts cuts. I blended those together and tasted them. And it was a lot more reminiscent of the Queen Palm brandy that I had made. A lot of those notes were coming forward, a lot of those fruity notes. And I was also getting some delicious vanilla waxiness on the nose. There's a little bit of spice in there as well, and the predominant fruit that I'm getting is Queen Palm fruit. And if you've never had a Queen Palm fruit, you just gotta try one out. On the palate, there's a lot of juicy figs and a little bit of bitter chocolate. Right now, I'm trying to debate whether or not jar 6 should make it into the spirit. And I like some of the flavors. It's a little bit grungy, a little bit funky. That's something that I definitely like in spirits. So I tend to gravitate towards that grunginess. However, I don't want it to overpower the flavors that are already in the spirit. A good way of figuring out whether I should blend them together or not is to make a tincture. So that's what I did. So more fruity notes come through, which is a plus. It's a little bit funkier, but also in a positive way. So I think jar 6 is adding some good characteristics to the spirit. It's adding some more fruitiness, a little bit of funkiness. There's almost like a sunscreen bitterness to this, but I believe that is actually coming from jars 4 and 5 that I already had blended together and considered the hearts cut. So yeah, I like the flavors that are coming from jar 6, which means it's going in the spirit. Now the question is, do jars 1, 2, and or 3 make it into the spirit? Now these came out first off the still, and typically you'll get more of those harsh flavor compounds coming off first. The ones that remind you more of nail polish remover. And they are obviously not that desirable. And the reason that I have them separated into 3 different jars is because I was hoping that the hearts were gonna come up next. So any slight change in flavor profile as the spirit was coming off the still gets a new jar, essentially, until it makes it to what I consider the hearts that I think taste great, and then that can get put into a larger jar. We'll start with jar 3 and work our way backwards. As it turns out, jars 1, 2, and 3 just tasted a little bit too harsh, a little bit gluey and grassy, and I wasn't getting too much fruitiness in there. So yeah, they will be discarded as heads, which means I will redistill them with another following batch. So to summarize my cuts, I took a 280 ml 4 shots cut. The heads cut ended up being about 750 mils. The hearts cut was about 1,650 mils at 72% ABV. And the tails was everything after that. So yeah. Whether you can see that or not, the spirit is sitting at about 72% ABV. Okay, so let's taste the final spirit. Right away, there's like a banana leaf character and some fruitiness. There's like a little bit of a funky mango and fresh apricots. A little bit of apple, and there's lime. It's got a little bit of carameliness to it. Maybe that's like caramelized bananas. So there's definitely some heat. Yeah, that needs to be edged off. And once it does subside, it does build into this creamy mouthfeel that I wish was a little bit more viscous, but still great. And immediately it tastes like biting into a really, really, really juicy but dried fig. Yeah, it's great. There's still a little bit of that like coconut sunscreen essence to it, maybe mixed with a little bit of bug spray in the finish, as well as a little bit of grassiness and earthiness, perhaps even some tobacco leaves. That also might just be my neighbor smoking, but I am happy with it. I did think that more of the molasses characteristics would come forward. I thought it would be rummier than it was, but I guess those queen palm fruits have overpowering flavors. So I think I might try this again. However, use a higher molasses to queen palm ratio rather than 1-to-1. Maybe I'll do a 2-to-1 or something like that. But yeah, I'll definitely try this again. I think the fruity characteristics and the earthy characteristics that come from the queen palm fruits play into some of those fun rum flavors. This is definitely going to get some oak. It will be oak infused. And yeah, stay tuned to see how that tastes. I'm excited to see how oak impacts the flavor profile. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, share with friends, and definitely subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And of course, before I go, I would like to give a shout out to my Patreons. Thank you guys so much for your support and being the start of what I hope to be a really neat community over on Patreon. Now, if you're not on Patreon and you would like to join, I'll leave a link down below in the description. Queen palm rum. Ew. The sixth, I can't say sixth. Yeah, a lot of lime on the nose. Wow.